Hello boys and girls, we are back with another edition of this series that I haven't figured out the name for yet. Something along the lines of live room tracking recording session type of thing. And not only do we have the notorious Alex filling in this jam session, we also have a new guest, one that me and Alex were meeting for the first time in this video, and I think that's what makes this video interesting and something that we could learn from. As a musician, you're going to find yourself in positions where you are going to be playing with people for the first time in a jam type of session, in a communal place, and you want to be able to keep along with the other musicians. And that means you must be comfortable on your instrument. And I am very comfortable on the drums. I can carry my own. I'm not the greatest drummer in the world, but I could at least follow along to pretty much anything a guitarist or bassist is going to throw at me. I can't say the same for guitar or bass. I have not been playing those instruments long enough to be comfortable enough to improvise on the spot and, basically jam. And if you're a musician watching this video and you have never jammed with a group of people before, you should really find yourself an opportunity to do so. It is a very fun and a very rewarding experience. At first, this may seem very intimidating, but as long as you have your practice in and you've practiced with a metronome, you're going to do just fine. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I hadn't cut my teeth yet as a musician, there were a few circumstances where the people I was playing with weren't the most patient with me, but in those situations, you really are forced to learn on the spot, and I think that pressure can be a good learning experience as well. And I think at the core of being a good jam musician is the ability to be on the same wavelengths as your counterparts. For example, me and Alex have been playing music together for at least 5 years at this point, I think, and I know exactly what this kid is thinking when we're knee-deep in the middle of a jam session and he gives me a look and I know he's about to change to a different riff and I know to put a fill exactly where it needs to be, and so it lines up exactly when he's going to change and when he's going to do a key change and all that. I know how this kid's brain works and he knows how my brain works, and we basically work off each other, and the spontaneous nature of it all is where a lot of the magic comes from, in my opinion, and we come up with a lot of great ideas by doing this. And this whole jam session type of thing I'm talking about goes way, way back. I mean, if you just think early in the blues and jazz days where musicians would just go up on stage and just start playing around with scales with one another. And a lot of the classic chord progressions that are associated with certain genres, like jazz's 2-5-1 or the blues 1-4-5, those all derived from popular chord progressions that musicians were jamming on in the clubs. At least that's how I think it happened. I don't know. I'm kind of just making stuff up on the spot. It sounds right, so let's just roll with it. Anyway, I'm getting a little carried away. The point is, the footage of this video is of me and Alex meeting Paul LiVolsi for the first time and just having a jam sesh. We had no specific goal or anything like that. We were just looking to jam. I rarely have the chance to do these live band tracking recording sessions, and I learn something new every time, and the main lesson I got from this time was that I still have some severe limitations in my recording studio. When I'm just by myself recording my own music, I have no issues, but when I start having to mic up multiple instruments at the same time, including vocals, I start running into some issues. I recently bought a bunch of Electro Voice microphones, so I'm good on the microphone front. Where I start to run short is the number of microphone stands and the number of microphone cables. And cables are an easy fix. I have a bunch of bulk wire to make more. I just need to buy some connectors, so I'm eventually going to do that pretty soon. Stands is a little more tricky. I have a lot of crappy stands, and I wanted the next, set of microphone stands I want to buy quality ones that are going to last me. And, you have to put out a pretty penny to get a couple of quality ones. But still, that is still a relatively minor issue. The bigger issue is when I come to the lack of compressors that I own, and I like to compress when I track. I just made that whole video the other day about that topic, so I'm not even going to rehash that. But anyway, the point is I don't have an adequate number of compressors. Additionally, I don't have that many quality preamps. I really only have one quality preamp. The other ones are more garagey and dirty kind of color boxes where high fidelity is not necessarily what you're looking for. But regardless, the built-in preamps in my console do just fine. They aren't the greatest, but they certainly get the job done. Okay, so let's talk about the microphone setup I got going on for this recording session. On the bass drum, I have an EV664 dynamic microphone. On the snare, I have the EV-RE10, which is a super cardioid microphone, and this is different than I usually do. I usually use an omnidirectional microphone on my snare, but lately I've been trying to get a different drum sound, and this time go for a more focused and cleaner sound than the usual really roomy sound that I go for. I also moved my front of kick microphone closer than I usually do to my drum kit to get a more direct sound and a little less room sound. On track 4, I have Paul's guitar going into his Vox AC30, and that is mic'd with an RE18, another super cardioid microphone, and that is going into my VCA compressor. And I'm using a light ratio here. I'm not trying to change the sound drastically at all. I want Paul's playing to be as natural to the amp sound as possible. And on Alex's bass amp, I have an SM57 right next to the grill cloth on my PV amp, and I am putting on a healthy dose of compression. I also put an omnidirectional microphone in the middle of the room in case Alex or Paul wanted to sing into it. And I haven't mixed down the recordings yet, but I might actually also use this as a room mic depending on how it sounds, so we'll see. And by far the hardest thing to do in a recording tracking session like this is also being one of the musicians. It's obviously impossible for me to both play drums and work the mixing desk at the same time, and because of that, there's a lot of trial and error involved, and it takes a little bit of finesse to get everything exactly where you want it to be. For example, on the first couple of takes, my bass drum mic was so hot, it was distorting everything on my mixing board through my headphones, and it took me, I think, 2 tries until I got it where it needed to be. What makes this recording situation even more difficult is that in a jam type of session, the music volume is often changing, and that's either because of differences in song material, or because people are twiddling with their amps and changing the volume, changing the gain, changing the reverb, and you need to set your levels where you allow for a little change in volume here and there, and you're not recording so hot. This also holds true if you're doing sound for a live event and you need to sit behind the mixing desk and change volume on the spot. After a few takes, I got the levels where I needed it to be. It sounded okay. It didn't sound great. I could have did some more tweaking from there, but the point of this video was not for me to record some banging ass song. It was just to show the live room tracking process, and really it was just exercise for myself to get better as a recording engineer. Okay, that's enough yapping at me. Let's just get to the jammin' already. Is already kind of where it needs to be. As I said before, the bass drum is really still too hot, but honestly it doesn't sound that bad. I'm not gonna play through the whole jam session because we're jamming for more than an hour, but I'm just gonna fast forward to the end to show you guys the highlights. There are 2 things I want to show you. The first thing is just a short snippet of the chord progression we were jamming on during our little jam session. And the second thing I want to show you guys is this random quick little song we came up with in about the span of 10 minutes when we were all swapping instruments and playing different instruments, and Alex went on guitar, I was on the drums, and Paul was on bass, and we kind of just went wild on this random riff. Hopefully you guys like it. Alright, here we go. Alright, that is it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed the Jammin'. We're definitely going to be seeing more of Paul in my studio. We're definitely going to be jamming in the future. Paul is also releasing a hot new single today, and I will link that in the description for you all to hear. He would love for you to listen to it. And that is it for today. Hopefully someone out there learned at least a little something. Maybe even some of you would join some music along the way. And this ends the installment in the series of live room tracking with friends and jam session and pizza eat and then good time having series. See you next time.